Okay, this lesson is about the nervous system, and to start with, let's hope you recognize from B1 that this here is a nerve cell and the structure of it. We'll get to that. And what effect does it have on this man? So, to start with, just some quick recall questions. Some from B1, some from B2, earlier topics, etc., like ecology with the greenhouse gases. Just pause and see if you can remember those, and then go on to the mark scheme. And obviously pause again. The bottom one says different versions of a gene, such as brown eyes, blue eyes, etc. Right, the nervous system itself. Two main parts of the nervous system: the central nervous system, and the central nervous system is made up of a brain and your spinal cord down. Outside from that is all the peripheral nerves. So when we mean peripheral, we're on about surroundings. So there's nerves going down your arm to your skin, there's nerves going out from the spine, there's nerves going right from the bottom of the spine all the way down your leg. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of nerves, some of them carrying information into your body, such as when you stand on something sharp or you touch something hot, so sensory nerves, and some of them going back to things like your arms and your legs, so you can actually react. So you have nerves all over your body picking up information and other nerves taking information back out to your body. So central nervous system is the brain and the spine, and the peripheral nerves are all the others. And with reactions, it starts with a stimuli, which is a change in the world around you, and it's picked up by cells that are receptors. And we've already said temperature receptors in your skin, pressure receptors in your skin. Sometimes it's smell, sometimes it's taste, sometimes it's you can see things or hear things. So make a table like this in your book. So this table here, what are those parts of your body sensitive to? And then write two sentences explaining the difference between the central and the peripheral nervous systems. Now the central nervous system is the one that makes all the decisions, does all the thinking. That's what you're using at this very moment. In a minute you'll be using your peripheral nervous system to pick up a pen and start writing. Hundreds and hundreds of nerves all used to coordinate that, but based upon your memory, so it's linking the central nervous system to the peripheral. And then in the nerve cell itself, so on this nerve cell here, I'll just change colour. Here, this great big, change colour again, this great big long axon that goes all the way along here, that's how you carry a message. So these can be incredibly long in your body to carry messages quickly. This, however, is called the cell body here. So this section is the cell body. That's where you've got your nucleus. And then you've got these structures here called dendrites. So just swapping around colour pens, dendrites are all these connections. Every single one of these can be connected to many other nerve cells. So just for you to think about what I've just said and to look at the screen at the same time and to listen to my voice, you're using loads and loads of connections in dendrites in your brain. And like as I said before, hopefully then, using your peripheral nervous system, you're going to send messages down nerves to your hand to record some of this. This is a great opportunity for you to pick up a pen and a pencil, draw a diagram of this with the labels on it, so you know all those parts that are on this diagram. How is that nerve signal carried then? There's a tiny little electrical impulse that travels down here and it makes a muscle contract, for example. So if you wanted to just twitch your little finger, you can do that now if you want. You can twitch your little finger and you can send a little electrical message down to do that. So how does it all work? Well, there's three parts to it. This is a section through your spine. So here, when it says spinal cord, this here is looking at a section of the spine. Information is carried in, for example, from your finger. If you touch something hot, information is carried in here through a sensory nerve. Then it gets passed through a relay nerve. The relay nerve makes a decision, and in this case, this motor nerve would go all the way back down to your finger, and the one that's touched the hot plate, you'd move your finger away from it. So that's a reaction, only involving 3 nerves there, so incredibly fast. If you look at the top of this page, then that breaks the reaction down. This is where you need to write this down clearly. You might want to write down the side of your page, and then what you might want to do is next to each one just give an example or a brief description. So a stimulus is a change in the world around you. You know about it because you have receptors like the eyes and the ears and the skin. Then you've got these sensory nerve carries the information in, the relay neuron or nerve makes a decision, the motor neuron carries the information back out, and it goes back out to something called an effector. That could be a muscle, for example, and your response might be, well, the effector might be muscles in your eyelid, and the response might be to blink because something's travelling towards your face. The effector might be a muscle in your finger, and the response might be move your finger away from the sharp pin. So in terms of how it works, a harmful stimulus from a hot object here the pain receptors are stimulated. That electrical impulse goes through the reflex arc back to, so all the way in, so up here through this, that's the sensory nerve, through the relay nerve, back around the motor nerve to the effector, and your response. Your response is here. So your response, the arm muscles contract and the hand withdraws. So the effector was a muscle. Great to have a diagram of this reflex arc in your notes. There's the sensory nerve, there's the relay, there's the motor. Now, this is a new word. A synapse is the joint between 2 nerves. And if you see here, in here, those 2 nerves aren't touching. They aren't touching because we don't want that electrical impulse to flow along. We don't want this sensory thing just to go on and on and on and on and on and it become automatic like that, because there has to be this decision making in the middle. So once you've had a chance to draw that and move on, this is what a synapse actually looks like. So along comes our electrical signal, and it causes a chemical here. This chemical is released and it moves across this incredibly small gap, and if it fits on this side here, the signal carries on. So the chemical triggers the impulse to continue, and that chemical by name, we would call it a neurotransmitter, and there's several in your body. And when people take drugs or caffeine, etc., any drug is something that affects these synapses. Some of them drugs speed them up, they're called stimulants like caffeine. Others, like alcohol, slow these synapses down, so it takes longer for the chemical to get across. So those are sedatives. And then painkillers, you could block this synapse. So the way drugs work is they work on how that neurotransmitter travels across that incredibly small synapse. Now, just to see something coming towards your face and blink, you're going to involve several nerves, and therefore you can see how fast and how small these gaps are. The chemical doesn't take long to move across. You're talking about milliseconds. So draw a diagram of the synapse. So you've got a diagram of a nerve cell and you've got a diagram of a synapse. And then on this next bit, what I'd like you to do is pause. These words are the ones that so far we've used in this video. I would suggest that now you rewind, you go back to where you need to, you make sure you know exactly what all of they are, and then you decide which ones are those, which ones need to fit into your glossary. So you've drawn and labelled a nerve cell to show how an electrical impulse is carried. You've drawn and labelled a synapse. And then there's two further things here. For those of you going for the higher grades, a little bit of research, a little bit of finding out stuff for yourself to get that extra stretch. So, how would you sum up in 25 words what you've learned? That's the challenge for you. Thank you.